What if I told you that in some parts of America, the rain falling on your roof may not legally belong to you? Most people assume that if rain falls on their property, they have the right to collect it. But for more than a century, parts of the United States have operated under a completely different idea. An idea that says water belongs to whoever claimed the right to use it first. And that simple principle has created some of the strangest water laws in America. In this video, we're going to explore how rainwater collection became controversial, why some states regulate it, and what this tells us about the future of water independence. And stay until the end, because I'm going to show you one water solution that doesn't depend on rain, reservoirs, wells, or municipal infrastructure at all. Where did these water laws come from? To understand modern water laws, we have to go back to the American West. In the 1800s, settlers moved into regions where water was scarce. Unlike the eastern United States, where rivers and rainfall were relatively abundant, Western communities faced a different reality. Water was survival. Farmers needed it. Ranchers needed it. Mining operations needed it. And conflicts over water became common. To solve those disputes, Western states adopted a legal framework known as prior appropriation. The basic idea was simple. First in time, first in right. Whoever first established a legal claim to water gained priority access, even if someone else owned land nearby. Over time, this system became deeply embedded in Western water law. And that is where the rainwater debate begins. Why did rainwater become controversial? Supporters of strict water rights argued that rain falling on rooftops would eventually make its way into streams, rivers, and reservoirs. And those water sources already had legal users downstream. From that perspective, collecting large amounts of rainwater could theoretically reduce water available to people holding existing water rights. Whether that impact is significant has been debated for years. But the legal concern was enough for some states to regulate rainwater collection more carefully than most people would expect. This created a public perception that collecting rainwater was completely illegal. In reality, the laws have often been more nuanced than the headlines suggest. Some states allow collection with limits. Some encourage it. Others regulate larger systems differently than small residential setups. The states that changed their rules. One of the most famous examples is Colorado. For years, Colorado had some of the strictest rainwater collection rules in the country. But as public awareness grew, the state eventually legalized limited residential collection. Other Western states also updated their policies over time. Why? Because policymakers began recognizing that small-scale residential collection often has minimal impact on overall water availability. Today, many states allow some form of rainwater harvesting. But the broader lesson remains important. Water law in America is far more complicated than most people realize. And it continues to evolve as droughts, population growth, and infrastructure challenges increase pressure on existing water supplies. What does this mean for the future? The rainwater debate highlights a larger issue. More Americans are beginning to think seriously about water resilience, not because they expect catastrophe tomorrow, but because they recognize how dependent modern life is on complex infrastructure, water treatment facilities, pumping stations, reservoir systems, distribution networks. Most of us rarely think about these systems until something goes wrong. A drought, a contamination event, a power outage, a pipeline failure. When those events occur, families quickly realize how little control they actually have over their water supply. That realization is driving growing interest in backup water solutions across the country. A different approach to water independence. One option is rainwater collection. Another is private wells. Others invest in storage systems and advanced filtration. And in recent years, a growing number of people have become interested in atmospheric water generation. Instead of relying on rain, rivers, reservoirs, or municipal systems, atmospheric water generators extract moisture already present in the air and convert it into usable water. It's a completely different approach to water independence. Commercial systems can be expensive, but DIY systems have made the technology far more accessible. The SmartWaterBox is one example. It uses atmospheric water generation principles in a home-built system that can be assembled for under $110. The link is available in the description below if you'd like to learn more. If you enjoy learning about water law, water infrastructure, droughts, preparedness, and practical water solutions, subscribe to Water Freedom. Every week, we explore the challenges shaping the future of water and the technologies helping families become more resilient. Because understanding how water works may become one of the most valuable skills of the coming decade.